Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar and spending a part of your Friday with us. My name is Susie, and I'm the Communications Director for Mindstream Analytics. Today's webinar is Architectural Foundations for Big Data Analytics from On-Premise to Cloud. Before we start, just a few housekeeping items. To confirm that you can all hear me, please click on the Raise Your Hand button now. Great. On the right side of your screen, you'll see a Questions tab. At any time during the webinar, please enter your questions or any questions that you might have in that box. We'll address all the questions at the end of the webinar in the order the questions are received. And finally, for your information, as always, this webinar will be recorded. In addition, I'd like to, of course, give you a quick overview about us. Mindstream Analytics, headquartered in Boston, is a leading consulting and managed services provider focused on helping companies solve complex data challenges, improve business analytics, and optimize business performance. Our experienced consultants and professionals are here to help you align your business and technology needs with ease. Today, we collaborated with Kloutix. Kloutix is a cloud-based analytics technology provider, transforming the speed to adoption of analytics applications. I've seen the preview. I think you're really going to like this presentation today. With that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dinesh, co-founder and CEO of Kloutix, and we can begin. Go ahead, Dinesh.
Thank you, Susie. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining for this webinar on a Friday morning. My name is Dinesh. I'm the CEO of Kloutix. I've been into this data analytics domain for more than 20 years, but the kind of changes that we are seeing in last 2-3 years are, really interesting. The way the market is changing, the way, the customers are facing the new challenges. Now, some of the things that we are seeing customers challenged are, really people are trying to understand how do I maximize my value of my data. Now, data definition itself has changed, right? Now, you have different types of data coming in, and we're talking about big data. So how do I get maximum value out of it? The other thing which has happened in last 2-3 years, I will say, and it has been quite significant, is the technological shift, right? And I personally believe the shift which has happened in last 3-4 years, probably it has been happened in last decade. So people are trying to understand, our customers are trying to understand how they can leverage the latest technologies in their big data analytics architecture. The other things they are struggling with is how do I implement my big data architecture? How do I ensure that it is not a failure? How do I de-risk the whole implementation? Now everybody has limited budgets, so people are trying to understand with the limited budgets how do I implement and how do I really increase the return on investment, right? By the time we finish this webinar, I'm sure you'll be able to answer most of these questions. During the webinar, we will also show you a demo of our product, one of our products, in fact, which is around mutual fund industry. This is really to bring home the point in terms of how now a self-service, analytics can help business users. How we can give the power of, statistical modeling in the hands of business users. So that will be a very interesting demo, a quick demo for that. And then we'll talk about roadmap to cloud analytics. How should you go about building them? So, what I was talking about, if you look at, the analytics market currently, there are really 2-3 things that people are looking at, right? One is that predictive modeling. See, last 10 to 15 years, we have seen that a lot of people have built data warehouses, right? And they have some kind of ecosystem in place to kind of analyze the data. But really, the predictive modeling is the one that gives you that insight from the data, the patterns from the data that cannot be obtained just from a business intelligence tool. The secondly is, how, as I was talking about, how do I get, insights from my big data? But I think the most important thing is, how do I take all this and provide business analytics as a service to my business users, right? That is really the crux. Because, the whole data deluge which is going on, it is really to get that analytics as a service to the business user, where business user can himself feels the power of having analytics on his fingertips. How do we do that? So at Kloutix, this is what we do. We understand the data very well. We understand how to come out with patterns within the data without doing too much of investments. See, the traditional model has been, you take the data, you build some kind of a large data warehouse first, and then kind of try to understand that. But I think that is getting changed a lot, right? With so much of data coming in, and you need to quickly understand what the data is, it is critical to find the patterns in the data, right? And that's what we do. And the kind of solutions and the products that we have built, we are able to really reduce the time and cost of implementation significantly. But most importantly, we are able to bring that analytics in the hands of the business user. That I think is the most important thing. Now, customer are also looking at, how do I make this possible? So first is automation, right? Now, with the digital technologies in place, automation plays a critical role in how do you bring that in the hands of business user. The second thing is, do you have pre-built statistical models? Now, the days of starting from scratch and then learning and going ahead and delivering an output in 6, 8, 9 months is gone. I think people are looking at how can I implement something fast? How can I give a business output in 2 to 3 months, right? That is what it is. Because really I guess the lay of land is changing, right? The things are changing pretty fast. So to that extent, you need to have something called as purpose-built architecture. What do I mean by that, right? If you look at, the traditional approach has been, you take a platform like an Oracle or a Teradata or a IBM and throw all the data on it and do some analysis on it. But really, that was possible because your data was limited. You had relational data coming in and things like that. But now with so much of different variety of data coming in, but not only data, the business requirements are also changing, right? We're talking about real-time data warehousing. We're talking about real-time analytics. So you really need to harness the technology based on the requirements that you have. The requirements both from a data perspective and also from business perspective, right? So I will go in a little bit more detail about the platform that we have and how does it, use that purpose-built architecture. Also, we'll talk to you about some of the, guidelines of building a purpose-built platform. And this is really critical. I think this is really the crux of it, because until as you take leverage of the latest technologies which are now coming to the marketplace, your TCO is not going to be optimal. But more importantly, the business outcome that business is looking at will not be able to deliver until as the technology backbone is suited to deliver that technology. Right? And of course, as a company, we do offshoring, which actually brings a lot of benefits to you. Now, let's say if I take some data and I do some massaging of data and build a statistical model on top of it, that same model can be built by multiple existing algorithms. So the thing is, which one do I choose? Based on the data, based on the business requirement, I need to be able to choose the best model to build my statistical algorithm, to build my outcome. And then once I've built it, I should be able to use the context of that model to arrive at a business outcome. Ultimately, what I'm looking at is the right kind of business outcome. So let us say if I'm working for let us say a company which is dealing with churn, customer churn, it can be a B2B or B2C, either ways. I should be able to understand which are the parameters which are affecting the churn. I should be able to understand which is the right algorithm, which is giving me the maximum, benefit of that algorithm, and then able to predict it based on the environment pattern. Right? So this is really the crux of purpose-built architecture. Now, everybody talks about big data. I just want to throw in a case study here. One of our customers actually, in the retailing of electronic goods, they came to us. So obviously, they sell products through their retail outlet. They also sell products through their web, and they also have a call center. So you can actually, call up their call center and order the products. And of course, they are on Facebook. They want to understand where the customer service is working fine. So they have all these, social media channels from which they're getting the feedback. So they really wanted to understand, how does a consumer behave across the multiple channels, right? Now, in case, for example, let's say manufacturing companies there, you may want to understand how my products, are getting used across the various channels, right? Or if, on the shop floor, if I'm moving my products, different units, how is it moving? So in this case, they really wanted to understand that. And the interesting point which I found was that they came to us and they said, we want to build a data warehouse on Hadoop, and then we want to do analytics on top of it. And we asked them, why Hadoop? So actually they could not articulate. They said, our business has heard that, we need to have Hadoop for big data, and that's the reason. So that is the kind of, I think, confusion or challenge that the customers are facing, that what should they be using. And I think we will talk about few of these things and what makes sense in a particular scenario. Right? We'll give some kind of guidelines into how that can be done. Now, from architecture standpoint, if you look at, in any organization, right, the applications which are built, right, they're built to achieve a particular purpose, a particular business function. So you can have a supply chain application, you may have a manufacturing application for, let's say in ERP, right? You may have a CRM, you have a social media, you have a web, you have a call center. So you have this various application, rightly so, and they have a specific purpose for which the applications are built, right? But if you see, when we are doing analytics, right, we really want to know what is happening across these applications, right? So if I'm a manufacturer, for example, if my products are failing in a particular machine, I really want to understand whether the failure on that machine had anything to do with a failure in previous two processes. So as a business user, while all these applications are there, I want to take an end-to-end view of the entire process. So that process, understanding of the process and where should I improve the process is very, very critical, right? Now, let's say if I'm a consumer, then I want to understand how can I cross-sell more? How can I give better customer service, cross-sell, upsell the products across multiple channels? So the challenge becomes multifold now that you have data-centric and product-centric applications, but you want business outcome which are process-centric, right? So that throws up another challenge in this whole domain that we are talking about, right? And we'll talk about how kind of deal with this dilemma. Now, so if you look at from a perspective of what is there within the organizations and what kind of data is coming, there's really a what we call as big data challenge, right? You have multiple sources of data coming in. You have different kinds of data coming in. You have different frequency of data coming in, and then you need to integrate the data across this platform. And most importantly, I've seen that there's a lot of peer pressure to do things as well, right? Now that everybody's talking about big data, people really, there is a pressure to do big data, which is also quite interesting in a way, right? So if you look at, while we are having these challenges, there are multiple other reasons in terms of why analytics as a domain has really not gone to the level it should have. So while big data is there, but even if you look at, the traditional analytics, what Gartner says that only 11% of the companies actually, do meaningful analytics. And the reasons are varied, right? I mean, till now, if you look at analytics has been a very high capex domain. If you want to do analytics, you need to buy some very expensive softwares and hardwares. And, so before you really see any value, you need to invest a lot. And to that extent, if you look at analytics, it has been done mostly by Fortune 500 companies, mostly. And other people are doing it, but mostly. The other, of course, there's a skills shortage. I think what we hear from the clients a lot is that we may not have the right kind of data to do this, right? And trust me, at least in my 20 years, I have not seen any customer who has the perfect data. So data is never perfect. And even the most matured of the companies, are struggling with having the completeness of data, but that should not, kind of deter anybody from taking this journey, right? Many people who are not able to, really want to take a big bang approach, they want to look at, how can we start small, right? So can we see some proof before we move ahead, right? I think this one is very important, right? Most of the cases, there is a, lack of business case. So people, end up taking a different view. They say, okay, now that, for example, let's say Hadoop is popular, so let's build something on Hadoop, right? Because that's what everybody is doing, right? So there is a lack of business case, one of the reasons, and the other is many companies think, this is all for big companies. Actually, not true. Analytics is across the size of the companies. In fact, I believe the smaller the company, the more analytics they need, because they can't really afford to have they're really short on budget and they can't afford to have too many people around, right? So on one hand, you have this data challenge, and second, on the other hand, you have the adoption challenge. So how do we really marry the two? Now, the good part is that in last 2-3 years, what we have seen happening in this domain actually should be able to solve a lot of these problems, right? And I'm going to talk some of these things, particularly from architecture standpoint, right? So if you look at your conventional wisdom of doing analytics was that, okay, you buy, one of these platforms, whether Oracle or Netezza or SAP or things like that. You basically evaluate them and you buy them and install them and move forward, right? And we have seen that happening. Rightly so. It was required at that point of time. But the new approach is really that how can I build a purpose-built platform? Let me not, uh, throw one solution to every problem, right? It has to be purpose-built. Now, every customer is different, right? They have different challenges. So purpose-built platform makes more of a sense. Now, the new approach is also, cloud. So one of the themes of the webinar is cloud. Now, cloud gives you instant access to a large platform, right? So earlier, which will take you like, probably 3 to 4 months or 2 to 3 months to just set up the infrastructure, spend a lot of money. Today, you can have almost the same kind of facility on a click of a button, literally on a click of a button. Right? Within a few hours, you can have a big instance created for you. What more can one ask for? Right? Another thing, of course, this emergence of more latest technologies like Hadoop and MySQL. MySQL has been there for long, but Hadoop, everybody's kind of experimenting with Hadoop now. So it is not that the conventional approach of having a platform has gone away, but it is supplemented by the new technologies, which makes it much easier for anybody to adopt analytics, right? Similarly, if you look at from a software perspective, there are a lot of new things which have come up, like R in analytics, right? Now, R has been there for 35 years, right? It has been there in education institutions. A lot of people have been using it. But really, if you look at last, I will say 3 to 4 years, R has become functionally very powerful, particularly on the big data. So a lot of people are looking at R as their analytical platform. And of course, needless to say that you don't have to spend money on this. So really, the traditional approach of buying those big softwares can be supplemented by buying low-cost purpose-built softwares, which are now better in their applications and not just cheaper or free, right? So you can have a hybrid of both. And the third thing I want to focus is on development, right? Earlier, I remember, at least in my initial 10, 12 years, no data warehousing project was less than 6 to 8 months. That is minimum. I've seen projects with large companies going up to 2 years. But I don't think that is now anybody would wait for 2 years for any result to come, right? So now the focus is on, quick implementation, speedy implementation. Look at things where you have, some things already built up, like we have statistical models already built for a particular domain, right? Prepackaged models, prepackaged data models, prepackaged reports, and things like that. So really, I mean, if you look at in a totality, the conventional wisdom has been, challenged by the new approach, and now it is possible. See, 4 years back, I could not have shown this slide, but now it is possible because a lot of the softwares which are coming to market, they're not only price effective or cost effective, they're actually functionally better, right? So this now opens up a whole lot of opportunity, I would say, for a wide variety of companies to adopt analytics in a better manner, right? Now, so we've looked at, if I summarize, we looked at the challenges being faced, both from a perspective of, the data deluge, we call it, a lot of data coming in, from the perspective of an organization having product-centric applications, and they want process-centric outputs, right? But luckily, we have, technology changes which are happening, which can enable adoption of big data analytics in a bigger way. So the thing is, how do I go about doing it, right? Now, a lot of, recently there was a Gartner study which said that 40% of Hadoop implementation customers they did not see the business benefit out of it, right? And I think about 25% have already kind of experimented with how to, uh, but 40% of those have not seen the business benefit coming in. So what is the right approach? I mean, how do I ensure that my analytics is, big data implementation is successful? I think it really, to my mind, it starts from business, right? Business benefits. Technology comes way down the line. So we need to first start by saying, really as a business in the change scenario of customer, in the change scenario of, the environment, in the change scenario of big data, what are the questions I want to ask? What business problems I want to solve? What are the really blind spots for me in the business? If I'm able to answer that question, that gives me a roadmap in terms of what I want to do. Then I need to go a little bit deeper into that. So I want to understand that business problem, is it a one-time problem? Is it a recurring problem? So for example, let's say some machine failure is happening, right? It may be happening on a continuous basis, or some machine in the shop floor may keep on failing, or for example, churn. For any churn is a problem which is faced almost always. So is it a recurring problem or a one-time problem? So I want to architect based on that. Is it static or real time? Now, if I want to score a customer who comes on my website in real time, it will require a different kind of an architecture than, I want to score it by end of the day, clearly, right? Is it widespread or localized? Is it, is it faced by everybody within the organization? Then I want to look at a different solution. So this is not related to just technology. It is related to what business problem I'm facing and what is the magnitude and domain of that business problem. And then I look at, okay, what kind of constraints I have in terms of budgets, or I want to go slow, I want to build something and then move forward. So you see, if you've done these two steps, then I'm now concrete. I say, okay, my problem is that, let us say I'm getting a lot of leads, but there's a lot of leakage. So I want to get the leads and score them in real time, right? That is my business problem. Now I look at what technology I need to face or I need to deploy. Then you look at, about technology, about data. I think the third thing is you really look at about your data. Do I have the real data? Do I have all the data that I need? Now, in most of the cases, you may not have all the data, but I guess that is fine. As long as you are sufficient to build a model, which can help business significantly, that should be the starting point. An ongoing basis, then you can define the model, right? The other thing, there's a lot of sensitivity around, privacy of data. So that is something, of course, if the data is very private, then you may want to rethink about, what part I want to put in a cloud, what I want to in-house and things like that. So this is really the, implementation framework. Now moving on, now that what I've done is I've frozen my business case. I know what the problems are. Now I am on the process of building my purpose-built platform that we were talking about. Now then, how do I decide what should I use for what? So this is some of the guidelines I want to just share. And of course, there's nothing right or wrong, but some of the things you should look at, and every customer situation is different, so it has to be looked at from that perspective. If it is a low volume data and relational technologies, straight away SQL. There's no brainer on it, right? If it is really large volume, relational technology and mixed workload, then it has to be an appliance. Now, when I say mixed workload, that is very, very important to understand. Mixed workload means that you have a lot of people firing the queries on the database. You have a lot of different kind of queries being coming in, right? So not only different kind of people, but different kind of queries. And on parallel, you're also loading the data. So workload includes, loading of data, the different type of queries that are being fired, and different kind of people who are firing the queries. So if you have a mixed workload like that, I guess, any appliance will make sense, right? You have to evaluate that. But in the same way, if you have a large volume and, even the data is relational, but your workload is low, you can look at things like Hadoop. So you need not, spend that kind of money or effort in an appliance. You can look at things like Hadoop and Pig and Hive, right? But here your workload has to be low. Now, if you're looking at, analyzing your data in real time, then of course Apache Spark and technologies like that For unstructured data, again, you can look at Hadoop, NoSQL, Splunk, and things like that. If it's machine data, of course, Splunk is very good. Even Hadoop can be used. So these are some of the, I thought, at a high level, I wanted to share that what should you go big. Now, every customer, has a unique situation. So, different things will apply to different people. But purpose-built platform should have, to my mind, a combination of this. That is the meaning of a purpose-built platform, right? If you're only having one of this, that means either business is not required other thing, or your purpose is limited to that technology. But chances are that you may require more than one of these, right? And the same thing goes whether you're putting this on cloud or on premise, doesn't matter. The concept in terms of how this has to be implemented remains the same. So based on this, as I was talking about earlier, at Kloutix, we have built our digital analytics platform. So what we have done is, if you look at on the top, is various business applications, right? You have a recommendation engine, you have a refer flow, which is for referral analytics. We have a fund safe. I'm going to give a demo of fund safe. It's basically a mutual fund and investment management tool, analytics tool. You have churn, product affinity, market basket, and things like that. And what we have done is, when we are building this various applications as a part of this platform, on the bottom side you see various technologies. So we are using the technology that is needed for that, right? So if I'm doing a lead scoring in real time, I will look at Spark, for example, right? And on the bottom you see all the verticals for which we are working. So I guess while this is a bigger platform, but this is a similar kind of I will say a diagram or a roadmap should be prepared by every organization, saying that how does my purpose-built platform look like, right? So these are some of the products which I wanted to show as a snapshot, but I'll give a quick demo of FundSafe. So FundSafe really is our platform for mutual fund and investment banking, wealth managers, right? So this is the product. I will just log into this. Now, why I'm showing this product is just for a demo purposes, is to demonstrate 2-3 things. I spoke about automation, so it will show you how automation can be done while building statistical models. It will also show you how you bring statistical modeling in the hands of a business user. It will show you that how something which earlier would take, let's say, 6 to 8 months or 10 months to deliver, with this kind of applications can be delivered in 6 to 8 weeks. You don't have to go for 6 to 8 months. And of course, it is much more, the business benefit far outweighs the investment that goes in. So it's a high ROI kind of a thing. Now, a little bit about the architecture of this platform. This is completely web enabled. We have used latest technologies to build the front end. For statistical modeling, the engine that we have used at the back end is R. I'm sure most of you are familiar with R. And currently it is on SQL database. But for specific modules where we think there can be unstructured data, we will leverage Hadoop for this. So that is at the high level. It is completely web enabled. You don't need any kind of a desktop installation for this. And it's also mobile enabled. So you can look at a lot of things on the mobile. So I'll just give you a couple of examples here. So what you see in this platform are fundamentally 2 kind of analytics. One is completely customer analytics, and second is the distributor analytics. And this is just a sample. We have built multiple products, but if there's a need for any customized business application from your end, we can certainly kind of customize it for you, right? So I'll just show you a couple of models on customer, and similar models are present in distributor analytics, right? So let us say the first one, if you're able to see, what it shows is that which are the funds. So this is a mutual fund, as you understand. Which are the funds which I should target to which customers, right? So if you can see here, Fidelity Mid-Cap Value Fund, for example, these are the customers who are most likely in these states to buy this fund, right? So you can go in below for any of this, and you can find that Fidelity Mid-Cap Value Fund, these are the people who are most likely to buy. And then we have done a lot of engines here, like segmentation, risk profiling, impact of volatility on a particular customer, all that you can see here. As a business user, and I'll come to the automation part of it. As a business user, I can choose these parameters. I can say I want to look at the transactions from, let's say first of the month to let's say 17th of the month. I want to choose the name of the funds, right? Let's say I choose 2-3 funds here, and I can select the states, right? And I say analyze, and this will get formed. So as you see, as a business user, I'm able to build my models on the fly. So that is what automation brings in. That is what the self-service brings in. So I'll show you another example of clustering, right? So clustering is basically you use algorithms to segment your customers, right? Now in a normal scenario, if you have to do clustering, it goes through a long process of data manipulation. Then you select the algorithm, and then you build the model, and then you give an output. Typically it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. Here I'm giving that power of building the segments to the hands of the business. So as you see here, you can change the dates, you can choose the portfolio, you can select the states, and you select all this and say analyze. This whole model will be built. Now, in this case, this model has shown 3 segments, customer segments. I can go down here and say, okay, what are the different customer segments that are coming into my customers? I can click on it, and I see the details of those segments. Then I can target my campaigns, my cross-sell campaigns, and things like that based on that customer segments. So really, if you see, we have brought that automation to make the statistical models by the business, right? And these are all pre-built models, so you can easily, just get it started. And similarly, we have built for other applications. Similarly, if you go to the distributor analytics, and this distributor analytics, while this is for mutual fund, the same kind of concept applies in any business which handles distributors. So if you look at here, segmentation, scoring, churn, the whole lot of intelligence, all this is a part of the tool. So when you build these kind of applications, you can make it much faster, easy to use, and give that power in the hands of business users. Now coming back to our slides where we are. Similarly, we have other products like lead insights. We are building products related to hospitality industry, manufacturing industry, education, and things like that. But the concept remains the same. We are building that automation in the hands of and bringing analytics, power of analytics in the hands of business user. Now, just quickly, I want to touch upon how do you migrate to cloud? Now, cloud, we all know it's growing very fast. All surveys are saying that next 5-7 years is going to show a tremendous growth. But there's a lot of concern among most of our customers. And I think the biggest concern is related to the security of cloud. And a lot of customers, they're very sensitive about their data. So our approach is that, you should take, probably baby steps to migrate to cloud just to become comfortable. Now, cloud actually, is fairly secure now, if you ask me. But really what we are saying is that you should start by doing experiment projects. So the projects, because now it is very, you can start at a very little cost. So cost is not the, barrier for you. So if you want to, let's say, build a, a model, or let's say a machine learning model, right? You want to understand why a particular machine is failing, or, anything else. You can easily start that project on a cloud. If you do the experiment project, right? The data which is very sensitive, like the customer data, you may do it later on. You can do things like supply chain, distribution analytics, retail sales, campaign effectiveness, where the sensitivity of the data, NPA data is not there, right? You can start with that. So that can be probably the second stage. Third is where the applications are fairly distributed. Like we know that Salesforce, now everybody uses Salesforce. A lot of people are using Salesforce for their sales, right? So those kind of things, lead insights, customer surveys, where it is very distributed usage, you can look at that. And once the organization gets a comfort with that, you can create a hybrid strategy, which can be that, okay, some part which is very critical to me, or the data which is very, very sacrosanct to me, I will keep it in house. Rest I will try to migrate to cloud. So this really this reduces the stress of saying am I doing the right thing by going to cloud? Because this is really the future, and every company, I believe, should actually get into implementing cloud. So if you look at what we have discussed is that big data analytics obviously has to be done. The best way is that use the latest technology, the architecture principles to experiment with analytics if you're not doing it already. Now, once you have experimented, you're finding it successful, then you scale it. So you first experiment, then you scale. Once you've scaled it, then you refine. Particularly in the analytics domain, analytics is a moving object. It is not stationary. With every iteration, you increase the the accuracy of the models. You pull in the feedback of the output of the previous model and refine the model. So you need to experiment, scale, and refine, right? So really, I think in summary, what I want to say is that in today's world, with the kind of technologies that we have, the need for big data is there. I think that is without question. But the good news is that you don't need big budgets to do big data. Right? You can do it in a small way, in a measured fashion. The need is to focus on business benefits, right? Create the right kind of architecture that can provide that purpose-built platform for your future analytical growth. That is really the need. As Kloutix, we are happy to help in the journey that we want to go ahead with. So that summarizes my presentation. Susie, back to you.
Great. Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you all for attending today. By the way, I did put a link out there for FundSafe if you're interested in just reading more about it. It's in the chat box. Right now, we'll address the questions from the question box as we receive them. And while I wait for your questions, I just want to share that Mindstream is hosting a financial applications user group event in October in Cincinnati, Ohio, Thursday, October 22nd. I think what Dinesh mentioned earlier in the presentation about the driving force of analytics is also the driving force of this particular event, and that is before technology even enters the picture, we want to make and understand the business case specific to your organization. And often that's done in a bit of a vacuum within the organizations. We want to leverage your peers, our peers, and provide a forum to discuss these business problems. And in our case, particularly facing those working at the intersection of finance and IT. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can contact me, Susie, at marketing@mindstreamanalytics.com. I don't see any questions right now, but I'll give you another minute. All right, looks like we don't really have any questions today. Don't worry about it. Thanks, everyone. We'll be sending an email with a link out to the video as well as an opportunity to retrieve the slides from today. And of course, you're free to share that around to your friends and colleagues. If you have any questions or problems regarding that in the next week, or if you're interested in the financial applications user group in Cincinnati, or if you're interested in having us bring that closer to you, you can reach me at marketing@mindstreamanalytics.com. Thank you so much, Dinesh. Really great presentation. And we'll see
Thank you.
you all soon.
Thank you so much.